The cold woke Kael'thas first. Then came the pain. He opened his eyes to darkness, broken only by emergency lights that flickered red against metal walls. His head throbbed where the neural implant connected to his skull. Something was wrong with it. The constant stream of data that usually flowed through his mind had become a painful static. Kael'thas tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. His body ached everywhere. The last thing he remembered was the attack. Pirates had boarded the merchant vessel. There had been screaming. Weapons fire. Then nothing. He was in the emergency pod bay. The pods themselves were gone, ejected or stolen. Around him lay scattered supplies and broken equipment. The ship's main power was dead. Only backup systems still functioned, and barely. A sound made him turn his head. Someone else was here. She sat against the far wall, her forearms wrapped around her thin body. A Quellan. Their species were known as master engineers and dedicated pacifists. This one was young, maybe barely into adulthood. Her large eyes reflected the red emergency lights as she stared at him. "You are awake," she said quietly. Her voice carried the musical quality all Quellans had. "I thought you might be dead." "Not yet," Kael'thas managed to say. His own voice sounded rough. "What happened?" "Pirates. They came 3 days ago. Or maybe 4. Time is difficult here." She gestured around the dark bay. "They took everything valuable. The cargo, the crew. Anyone who could be sold or ransomed. Why are we still here?" The Quellan touched the side of her head. A deep burn scar ran from her temple down her neck. "I was injured when I fought back. Not supposed to fight, but I did anyway. They decided I was damaged, not worth the space on their ship." She looked at him with knowing eyes. "Your implant is broken. I can see the way you hold your head. Without it, a Vryn navigator has no value to them." Kael'thas felt cold shame wash through him. She was right. His people were valued throughout the galaxy for their ability to calculate navigation routes through their neural implants. Without it, he was just another alien taking up space. "There are others," the Quellan said. She pointed to shadows in the corner. 2 more. Kael'thas forced himself to stand. His legs shook but held. He walked carefully toward the corner. As his eyes adjusted, he saw them. The first was massive. A Korvath warrior, easily 7 feet tall, with thick gray skin and the distinctive ridge of bone across his forehead. But his left arm ended in a cauterized stump just below the shoulder. He sat perfectly still, eyes closed, breathing slowly. Warriors. Proud. Fierce. This one had been left behind because he could no longer fight properly. The second survivor was small. So small a child. She belonged to the Tickmeal species, barely 3 feet tall with large eyes and skin that could change colors to show emotion. Right now her skin was a dull gray, the color of grief. She clutched a small data pad to her chest. "Her parents were traitors," the Quellan whispered. "They are gone." She will not speak. Kael'thas felt something crack inside his chest. A child. They had left a child to die in the void of space. "I am Sira," the Quellan said, introducing herself. "The warrior is Drex. The little one has not told us her name." "Kael'thas," he replied. Then he asked the question he was not sure he wanted answered. "How long do we have?" Sira's expression became even more sad. "I have rerouted all remaining power to life support and minimal heat. If we do nothing and simply wait, perhaps 10 days, maybe 12. The distress beacon? Destroyed. The pirates made certain of that. Communications. The main array is gone. Even if I could repair something, we are in the void. No one comes here. The shipping lanes avoid this entire region. It would take a miracle for anyone to find us." Kael'thas walked to the nearest viewport. Beyond the damaged hull, space stretched endlessly. Stars shone cold and distant. The void was called that for a reason. It was empty, unmapped, dangerous. Ships that entered rarely came back. His implant tried to calculate their odds of rescue. Even damaged, it could manage simple probability. The answer came back as a number so close to 0 that it was essentially nothing. They were going to die here. "We should introduce ourselves properly," Drex said suddenly. His voice was deep and rough. He had not opened his eyes, but clearly he had been listening. "If we are to die together, we should know each other." "I have told them my name," Sira said. "I am an engineer. I worked on this ship for 2 years. I was saving money to return home and build a school." Drex opened his eyes. They were a startling blue against his gray skin. "I am Drex of Clan Korvath. I was hired as security for this voyage. I failed in my duty. The crew is dead and I survive. There is no honor in this. He looked at his missing arm. But I will face death with dignity. They all looked at Kael'thas. He sighed. I am Kael'thas, navigator. My family expected me to map the outer colonies. Instead, I will die in unmapped space. The irony is not lost on me. The small Tickmeal child stirred. She looked up at them with huge eyes. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. Pip, my name is Pip. Hello, Pip, Sira said gently. We are glad you told us. The child's skin flickered with a moment of pale yellow before returning to gray. Yellow meant gratitude among her people. The 4 survivors sat together in the darkness. Outside, the vast emptiness of space surrounded them. The ship drifted without power, without direction, without hope. Kael'thas tried to think of something to say, some words of comfort, but his people were not good at comfort. They dealt in facts and numbers, and the facts said they were dead. My people have a tradition, Drek said into the silence. When warriors know death is coming, they tell stories. They share their victories and their failures. They make certain their lives meant something. That is beautiful, Sira said. I have no victories, Drex replied, but I have stories. And so the Korvath warrior began to speak. He told them of his homeworld with its red skies and mighty mountains. He told them of his first battle and his greatest shame. He told them about the daughter he had left behind and would never see again. When he finished, Sira shared her own stories. She spoke of building her first engine at age 6. She described the ringed moons of her world and the singing gardens where her people meditated. Even Pip spoke a little. She told them about traveling with her parents, about seeing 15 different worlds before her 8th birthday, about the stuffed animal she had left in her quarters that she would never retrieve. Kael'thas told them about the beauty of mathematics, about the poetry he found in navigation equations, about the time he had plotted a course through an asteroid field that everyone said was impossible. They talked through the night, though night and day had no meaning here. They talked to push back the silence and the cold and the fear. Outside, the stars turned slowly. The ship drifted deeper into the void, and 4 survivors waited for an end they knew was coming. But in the darkness, they were not alone. And somehow that made the waiting bearable, for now. 6 days passed in the cold darkness. Kael'thas had divided their time into shifts. Someone always stayed awake to monitor the failing systems. It gave them purpose even though they all knew it was meaningless. The ship was dying. They were dying with it. The temperature had dropped enough that they could see their breath. Sira had found some emergency blankets, but there were only 2. They gave both to Pip. The child needed warmth more than they did. Food was not a problem yet. The emergency supplies would last longer than they would. But water was running low, and the air had started to taste stale. The recyclers were failing. Drex had stopped telling stories. He sat in meditation now, preparing his spirit for whatever came next. His people believed warriors who died with honor would join their ancestors in eternal battle. Kael'thas was not sure if being left to die in space counted as honorable, but he said nothing. Sira kept trying to repair things. Her 4 hands worked constantly, pulling apart broken panels and attempting to reroute power. Kael'thas knew it was hopeless. The damage was too extensive, but he let her work. It helped her cope. Pip had grown very quiet. Her skin remained dull gray. She slept most of the time now, curled under the blankets. Sometimes she cried softly. Kael'thas did not know how to comfort a child. None of them did. On the 7th day, Kael'thas made a decision. We should shut down life support in the other sections, he told Sira. Concentrate everything here. It might buy us 3 more days. Sira looked at him with tired eyes. 3 more days of this? 3 more days of being alive. Is that better? Kael'thas had no answer for that. But Sira made the changes anyway. The ship grew even colder in the sections beyond their bay. The emergency lights in the corridors went dark. They were sealing themselves into a tomb, but it was a tomb where they could breathe a little longer. On the 8th day, Drex spoke again. I am sorry, the warrior said. They all looked at him. I was hired to protect this ship. To protect the crew, I failed. You are here because I failed. You lost an arm fighting, Sira said gently. No one could blame you. I blame myself. Drex looked at his stump. A true warrior would have died in battle. Instead, I am here, dying slowly. Uselessly. You are not useless, Pip said suddenly. Her voice was small but clear. You told me stories. You made me less scared. That is not useless. Drek stared at the child. Something in his expression softened. Thank you, little one. On the 9th day, something impossible happened. Kael'thas was on watch when the proximity alarm sounded. The noise was so unexpected that he jumped. The alarm had been silent for over a week. Nothing moved in this part of space. He rushed to the console, his damaged implant screaming in protest as he tried to process the data. His hands shook as he read the display. Wake up, he shouted. Everyone wake up. Sierra scrambled to her feet, all four arms reaching for tools out of habit. Drex moved into a defensive stance despite his missing arm. Pip clutched her blankets and stared with wide eyes. What is it? Sierra asked. A ship. Kael'thas could barely believe the words coming from his mouth. There is a ship, close, very close. That is impossible, Sierra said. She pushed past him to look at the console. Her hands flew over the controls. We have no beacon. No one knows we are here. How could... She stopped. Her eyes went wide. By the ancients. You are right. Something just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Right next to us. Pirates? Drex asked. His good hand clenched into a fist. I do not know. The energy signature is strange. Not like anything in the database. Sirah worked frantically. I am trying to get sensors online. Just a moment, The console beeped. An image appeared on the screen. They all stared. The ship that floated outside their viewport was like nothing Kael'thas had ever seen. It was huge, easily 10 times their size, but it looked wrong. The hull was covered in mismatched plates as if someone had welded on armor wherever they could find space. The design made no sense. Parts of it looked new. Other sections were clearly old and repaired many times. What is that? Pip whispered. Reading the hull markings, Sierra said. The language is... I do not recognize it. Wait, the computer is translating. It says, Indomitable Spirit. Terra Registry. Terra? Drex frowned. I do not know this world, but Kael'thas did. His implant might be broken, but his memory still worked. Humans, he breathed. That is a human ship. Humans. Sierra looked at him. The newcomers. The primitives. They are not supposed to be here, Kael'thas said. No one is supposed to be here. This is the void. A crackling sound came from the console. Then a voice speaking words they did not understand. The computer struggled to translate, cycling through dozens of languages. Finally, it found one that Kael'thas knew. This is the cargo hauler Indomitable Spirit out of Terra, the voice said. It belonged to a female. She sounded tired but alert. We picked up your debris field and some weird radiation signatures. Anybody alive over there? Kael'thas stood frozen. His damaged implant tried to calculate the probability of this moment. It failed. This should not be happening. Sierra grabbed the communications panel. Yes, she shouted into it. Yes, we are alive. 4 survivors. Please, our life support is failing. Static answered her. Then the voice came back. Copy that. 4 survivors, failing life support. Hang tight. We are sending a boarding team. 10 minutes. Can you last 10 minutes? Yes, Sierra said. Tears ran down her face. Yes, we can last. Good, stay away from the starboard hull. We are going to cut through. Indomitable Spirit out. Silence filled the bay. Pip spoke first. Are they really coming? I think so, Kael'thas said. His voice shook. Drex had moved to the viewport. He stared at the human ship with an expression Kael'thas could not read. They came into the void, the warrior said slowly. No one comes into the void. They did, Sierra said. She was laughing and crying at the same time. They did. Kael'thas tried to process what was happening. Humans. He had read the reports about them. A new species that had appeared on the galactic stage only recently. They had primitive technology, dangerous driving habits with their ships, a reputation for ignoring rules and taking risks. But they had also come into the void. They had found a dead ship with no beacon in the middle of nowhere, and they were mounting a rescue. The calculation his implant had given him 9 days ago was wrong. The probability had not been 0, because humans apparently did not care about probability. 10 minutes felt like 10 hours. They gathered near the starboard hull as instructed. Pip held Sierra's hand. Drex stood ready, his good hand positioned to fight if needed. Kael'thas simply waited, his mind spinning. Then they heard it. A high-pitched whine, the sound of cutting tools against metal. Sparks began to shower down from above. A circular section of hull glowed red, then white. The smell of burning metal filled the air. With a loud clang, the section fell inward. Light poured through the hole. Bright, warm light. A figure appeared in the opening. It wore a bulky suit with a reflective helmet. The suit looked old and patched in multiple places. The figure jumped down into the bay with a heavy thud. More figures followed. 5 in total. They moved quickly, carrying equipment. The first figure reached up and removed its helmet. Kael'thas found himself looking at a human for the first time. She was older, with skin darker than his and hair that was turning gray. Her face was lined with wrinkles, but her eyes were sharp and kind at the same time. "I am Captain Maria Santos," she said in the same language the computer had translated. "You folks look like you have had a very bad week." Sierra made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. The captain smiled. It transformed her entire face. "Come on then. Let us get you somewhere warm. I am guessing you could all use a hot meal and a proper bed." One of the other humans moved toward Pip. The child shrank back, but the human stopped and knelt down to her level. He removed his helmet, revealing a young face with strange pale skin and bright yellow hair. "Hey there, little one," he said softly. "My name is Eric. Do you want to come with us? We have warm blankets and cookies. Do you like cookies?" Pip looked at Sierra. The engineer nodded. Slowly, the child reached out and took Eric's hand. The captain looked at the rest of them. "Can you all walk?" "Yes," Drex said. His voice was thick with emotion. "We can walk. Then let us go home." And just like that, the 9 days of waiting for death ended. The humans had come. The human ship was nothing like Kael'thas expected. The boarding team led them through corridors that were cramped and loud. Pipes ran along the walls and ceiling, some of them wrapped in what looked like tape. The floor plates were mismatched. Everything seemed to have been repaired multiple times with whatever materials were available. It should have felt primitive. Instead, it felt alive. People rushed past them constantly. Humans of all different sizes and colors, wearing uniforms that varied wildly in style. They shouted to each other in multiple languages. Someone was playing music somewhere, a thumping rhythm that echoed through the walls. The air smelled like oil and cooking food and something Kael'thas could not identify. "Sorry about the mess," Captain Santos said as she led them deeper into the ship. "We are a working vessel. Not much time for pretty." "It is perfect," Sierra said. Her large eyes tried to take in everything at once. They arrived at what the captain called the medical bay. It was small and cluttered, but clean. A human with very dark skin and silver hair looked up from a computer screen. She wore glasses, which Kael'thas found odd. Most species corrected vision problems centuries ago. "Dr. Adisa," the captain said. 4 patients. Hypothermia, malnutrition, possible injuries. The doctor stood immediately. "Bring them in." "Eric, I need you to help." What happened next shocked all of them. The doctor treated each of them with the same care and attention. She started with Pip because the child was smallest and most vulnerable. Then Sierra, then Drex, then Kael'thas. She did not ask about their species or their status. She simply helped them. When she examined Kael'thas, her fingers gently probed the area around his implant. "This is causing you pain," she said. It was not a question, it was damaged. "I cannot afford a replacement." Dr. Adisa made a sound of disapproval. "We will give you something for the pain. I cannot fix the implant itself, but I can help with the headaches." "Why?" The question came out before Kael'thas could stop it. The doctor looked at him with confusion. "Why what?" "Why help me?" "I have no way to pay you. I am of no use to you." The doctor's expression changed. She looked sad and a little angry at the same time. "Because you are hurt and we can help. That is reason enough." She patted his shoulder. "Rest now. You are safe here." Kael'thas did not understand, but he was too tired to argue. They were given quarters. Small rooms with actual beds. Pip was placed in a room next to Sierra, so the engineer could check on her. Drex and Kael'thas shared a space across the corridor. "This is real," Drex said quietly as he sat on his bed. It was too small for his large frame, but he looked at it like it was made of gold. "We are actually alive." "We are." Kael'thas agreed. That night, or what passed for night on the ship, Kael'thas could not sleep. The pain medication the doctor had given him worked well. His head felt clearer than it had in weeks. But his mind would not stop thinking. He left his quarters and walked the corridors. No one stopped him. A few crew members nodded as they passed. One young woman with bright red hair smiled and said something he did not understand, but her tone was friendly. He found himself in an observation lounge. A large window looked out at the stars. Several crew members sat at tables eating and talking. They glanced at him but did not seem concerned by his presence. Kael'thas stood at the window and tried to process everything. "Cannot sleep?" He turned. Captain Santos stood behind him holding 2 steaming cups. "I brought tea," she said, "or what we call tea. Might not be what your species drinks, but it is hot and helps me think." She offered him one of the cups. Kael'thas took it carefully. The warmth felt good in his hands. He sniffed the liquid. It smelled pleasant like flowers and earth. The captain stood beside him and looked out at the stars. For a long moment they were both quiet. "Why are you here?" Kael'thas finally asked. "In the void, no one comes here." Santos sipped her tea. "That is exactly why we come here. Because no one else does." "I do not understand." The captain smiled. "Humans have a saying. No one left behind. It means we do not abandon our people. But over time, it started to mean something bigger. We do not abandon anyone if we can help it. But we are not your people, aren't you?" Santos looked at him. "You are people. You needed help. That makes you our responsibility. That is not logical. You waste resources. You risk your ship and crew." "Maybe," the captain shrugged. "But here is the thing about humans. We do not always do what is logical. We do what is right. And leaving someone to die when we can help? That is never right." Kael'thas thought about this. His damaged implant struggled with the concept. The math did not work. The cost versus benefit analysis failed. But somehow the humans made it work anyway. "Your ship," he said. "It is strange. The design is inefficient. Multiple redundant systems, manual backups, physical locks alongside electronic ones." Santos laughed. "You noticed that?" "Yes, we over-engineer everything. Drives the more advanced species crazy. But see, Earth is what we call a death world. Everything there tries to kill you. Weather, animals, plants, even the ground sometimes. We learned early that plans fail. Technology breaks. You always need a backup. And a backup for the backup. It seems wasteful. Does it? We just found you in the middle of nowhere because our long-range sensors picked up some odd radiation that should not have been there. Most ships would ignore that. Too faint. Too far away. Not worth investigating. But our sensor operator, young kid named Rashid, he insisted something was wrong. So we checked. Found your debris field. Found you." Kael'thas felt something cold run down his spine. "If your sensors had not picked up that radiation, you would be dead, yes." Santos drank more tea. "That is why we have so many redundant systems. Why we check everything. Why we go places others avoid. Because sometimes someone needs help in those places." Over the following days, Kael'thas watched the human crew and learned. Sira spent hours in the engineering sections. She came back excited every evening, talking about human designs that should not work but did. The chief engineer, a short man with thick glasses named Okonkwo, taught her about iterative design, about learning from failures, about making things that could be repaired with simple tools because fancy equipment was not always available. "They test until it breaks," Sira told Kael'thas one evening. "Then they fix it and test again. It is not elegant, but it is effective." Drex found a different kind of learning. The security officer, a man named Chen with gray hair and a quiet manner, treated the one-armed Korvath as an equal. They sparred together, Chen teaching Drex new fighting techniques that worked with one arm. "He does not see me as broken," Drex said with wonder. "He sees me as a warrior who adapted." Pip was adopted by the entire crew. They took turns playing with her, teaching her games, showing her around the ship. She had started to smile again. Her skin showed flashes of yellow and blue now. Happiness and curiosity. One evening, Kael'thas found her in the mess hall. She sat with Eric, the young man who had first carried her aboard. He was teaching her a card game. "She is good at this," Eric said with a grin. "Beat me 3 times already." Pip's skin flashed bright blue. She was proud of herself. Kael'thas sat down across from them. "You spend much time with her?" "Of course. She is a kid. Kids need attention and play and safety." Eric dealt another hand of cards. "Plus she is funny. Yesterday she asked me why humans only have 2 arms. Said it seemed inconvenient." "It does seem inconvenient," Pip said seriously. Eric laughed. You know what? You are right. Very inconvenient. Watching them, Kael'thas felt something he had not felt in a long time. Hope, not for himself but for the future, for what the galaxy might become with humans in it. That night, Captain Santos announced they would reach a station in 2 days. The survivors would be transferred to representatives from their own species there. Kael'thas should have felt relieved. Instead, he felt sad. He was not ready to leave yet. There was still so much to understand about these strange, illogical, wonderful humans, but fate had other plans. On the last night before reaching the station, alarms blared throughout the ship. Kael'thas rushed from his quarters to find crew members running to their stations. Chen appeared, his face grim. Battle stations. We have company, and they are not friendly. Who? Kael'thas asked. Pirates. The same clan that attacked your ship. Chen's hand rested on his weapon. They are demanding we hand you over. All 4 of you. Kael'thas felt ice in his stomach. The pirates had found them, and they wanted to finish what they started. What will you do? He asked quietly. Chen looked at him. The security officer's eyes were calm but hard as stone. The captain already told them no. So now we fight. You would fight for us? We are nothing to you. You are crew, Chen said simply. Maybe not official crew, but you ate at our table. You slept under our roof. That makes you ours, and we protect our own. The human walked away to prepare for battle. Kael'thas stood in the corridor, his mind racing. The humans were going to fight for them, for 4 survivors they had known for less than 2 weeks. It was illogical, wasteful, dangerous. It was the most beautiful thing Kael'thas had ever witnessed. The pirates had given them 1 hour to comply. Captain Santos stood on the bridge, her face calm. Around her, the crew worked at their stations with quick efficiency. Kael'thas had been allowed to observe from the back of the bridge. Sira stood beside him, her 4 hands clenched nervously. Drex had insisted on going to the armory with Chen. Pip was in the safest part of the ship with Dr. Adisa. Status, the captain said. 3 pirate vessels, reported the sensor operator, the young man named Rashid. 2 corvettes and 1 frigate. The frigate is old, but it has been modified. Heavy weapons. We are a cargo hauler, Sira whispered to Kael'thas. How can they fight 3 military ships? Kael'thas did not have an answer, but Captain Santos did not look worried. She looked focused. Okonkwo, she said to the chief engineer over the communication system. How are we looking? The engineer's voice came back slightly distorted. All systems operational, Captain. I have redirected power to shields and weapons. We have full combat capability. Good. Chen, how is security? Armed and ready. All boarding countermeasures active. Santos nodded. She turned to look at Kael'thas and Sira. You should go somewhere safer. We want to stay, Sira said. If we are the reason you are fighting, we should see it. The captain studied them for a moment, then nodded. Stay against the back wall. Do not touch anything. A communication request came through. Santos accepted it. The pirate leader's face appeared on the screen. He was a Kranix, a species known for violence and greed. His scales were scarred and his eyes were yellow with slit pupils. Human ship, he growled. You have 1 hour to hand over the survivors. If you do not, we will take them by force. And we will take your ship and crew as well. Santos smiled. It was not a friendly smile. I have a counter-proposal. You turn around and leave now. We will pretend this meeting never happened. The Kranix laughed. You think you can fight us? You are a cargo ship. We have 3 warships. This is not a negotiation. You are right, Santos said. Her smile disappeared. It is not. Here is what is going to happen. You are going to attack us because you are too stupid to retreat. We are going to defend ourselves. And when this is over, you are going to regret that you ever found us. The Kranix's eyes widened with anger. You dare. Santos cut the communication. 30 minutes until they are in weapons range, Rashid reported. The captain sat in her chair. Good, that gives us time to prepare. Helm, I want you to calculate a course that takes us through that asteroid cluster to starboard. Captain, the helmsman looked confused. That cluster is dense. It is dangerous, exactly. Pirates like easy targets. Let us make this difficult, Santos looked at her crew. Remember your training. Remember why we do this. No one gets left behind. Not on our watch. The crew responded with determination. Kael'thas saw it in their faces. They were afraid, but they were not backing down. Sira leaned close to him. I do not understand. Why not just give us up? We are not worth dying for. Before Kael'thas could respond, the captain spoke again. She had heard Syrah's whisper. Let me tell you something about humans, Santos said. My ancestors came from a place called Earth, specifically a country called Portugal. Hundreds of years ago, they sailed wooden boats across vast oceans. They did not know what was on the other side. They did not know if they would survive. But they went anyway. Do you know why? Syrah shook her head. Because they refused to believe that the horizon was the end. They refused to accept limits. And they refused to abandon their crew no matter what. Santos stood up. That is in our blood. In our culture. In our very souls. You are under our protection now. That means something to us. The ship shuddered as it began to move toward the asteroid cluster. 20 minutes, Rashid said. Kael'thas watched the view screen. The asteroids were getting closer. Some were huge, larger than the ship. Others were small but moving fast. Navigating through them would require skill and luck. His damaged implant tried to calculate a safe path and failed. There were too many variables, but the human helmsman did not hesitate. Her hands moved over the controls with confidence. Entering the cluster now, she announced. The ship weaved between asteroids. Kael'thas held his breath. They passed within meters of collision several times. But the helmsman never wavered. Pirates are following, Rashid said. They look angry. Good, Santos replied. Angry people make mistakes. The ship dove deeper into the cluster. On the view screen, Kael'thas could see the pirate vessels pursuing them. They were faster, more maneuverable. But the asteroids forced them to slow down. Weapons range in 5 minutes, Rashid reported. Santos activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the captain. We are about to engage hostile forces. Remember your training. Fight smart, fight hard, and most importantly, fight for each other. Santos out. Kael'thas felt his heart beating fast. He had never been in a battle before. His people were navigators and scholars, not warriors. But these humans had been born on a death world. They knew how to fight. Incoming fire, Rashid shouted. The ship rocked as energy weapons hit the shields. Alarms blared. Return fire, Santos ordered. Target the closest corvette. The cargo hauler's weapons were not as powerful as military-grade armament, but they were well-maintained and accurately aimed. Bright beams of energy lanced out toward the pirate ship. Hit, Rashid confirmed. Their shields are holding. Again, Santos said calmly. They fired 3 more times. The pirate corvette's shields flickered and failed. The next shot hit the hull directly, tearing through armor. They are breaking off, Rashid said with excitement. But the other 2 pirate vessels were still coming. Santos stood up. Helm, emergency maneuver. Flip us around that large asteroid on our port side. Use it as cover. Captain, the stress on the hull, do it. The helmsman obeyed. The ship spun in a tight arc that made Kael'thas feel sick. They came around the asteroid just as the pirates fired again. The energy blast hit the asteroid instead, fragmenting it into thousands of pieces. Now, Santos shouted. Full thrust through the debris field. The ship accelerated directly toward the cloud of asteroid fragments. Kael'thas thought they were going to die. Syrah grabbed his arm with 2 of her hands, but the helmsman had timed it perfectly. The fragments were spreading out, creating gaps just large enough for the ship to pass through. The pirates tried to follow, but their ships were larger and less maneuverable. One of them could not slow down in time. It crashed into a large fragment, the impact crushing the bow. One more down, Rashid said. That left the frigate, the biggest and most dangerous of the 3 ships. They are charging weapons, Rashid warned. Power signature is huge. Captain, if that hits us I know. Santos stared at the view screen. Oh, Conquo, I need everything you can give me. Divert life support if you have to. Already done, Captain. The ship's lights dimmed as power was redirected to shields and weapons. They are firing. A massive energy beam shot toward them. For a moment, Kael'thas was certain they were dead. Then the helmsman jerked the ship to the side. The beam passed so close that Kael'thas could see the hull plating glow with heat. But it missed. That was their main cannon, Santos said. It needs time to recharge. Helm, bring us about. Weapons target their engine section. All weapons, full power. The cargo hauler spun to face the frigate. Every weapon on the ship fired at once. The beams of energy converged on the frigate's engine section. Shields flared bright, holding for several seconds. Then they failed. The weapons fire tore through the frigate's engines. Secondary explosions rippled along the hull. They are venting atmosphere, Rashid said. Emergency evacuation in progress. Santos nodded. Do not pursue. Let them go. Helm, set course for the station. Best speed, the battle was over. It had lasted less than 10 minutes. Kael'thas realized he was shaking. Beside him, Sierra had all 4 arms wrapped around herself. Captain Santos walked over to them. There was a cut on her forehead from when the ship had been hit. Blood ran down the side of her face. But she was smiling. You see? She said. Not so easy to kill humans. Are the people we protect. You could have died, Kael'thas said. All of you. Yes, Santos agreed. We could have. But we did not. And neither did you. She put a hand on his shoulder. That is what matters. You are alive. You are safe. And you are going to stay that way. Later, after the injuries were treated and the damage assessed, Kael'thas found Chen in the security office. I have a question, Kael'thas said. Chen looked up from his report. Ask. Why do humans fight like that? You took risks that no military force would take. You used tactics that were, he struggled for the word, wild. Chen smiled slightly. Let me tell you about human history. We are not the strongest species. Not the smartest. Not the fastest. But we are the best at one thing. We survive, we adapt, we overcome. He leaned back in his chair. Other species developed advanced weapons and then learned to fight. Humans learned to fight first. We fought for millions of years before we even had proper tools. It is in our nature. You fight with more than weapons, Kael'thas observed. Yes, we fight with our minds, our creativity, our refusal to give up. Chen's expression became serious. But most importantly, we fight for each other. A human alone is dangerous, but humans protecting their own? We become something else entirely. Something that does not stop, does not quit, does not surrender. Kael'thas thought about this. He thought about the battle, about the risks the humans had taken, about their sea. The station appeared on the view screen like a small city floating in space. Kael'thas stood on the bridge of the indomitable spirit and watched as they approached. The station was called Haven's Rest, a neutral trading post that served dozens of species. It was one of the few places in this region where everyone was welcome. It had been 2 days since the battle. The ship's crew had worked non-stop to repair the damage. Kael'thas had helped where he could, though his skills were limited. Sierra had practically lived in the engineering section, working alongside Okonkwo and learning everything he would teach her. Now they were here. The end of the journey. Kael'thas should have felt happy. Instead, he felt something else. Something that made his chest tight and his throat close. Docking in 20 minutes, the helmsman announced. Captain Santos stood beside Kael'thas. Your people have been contacted. They will meet you at the station. The Vryn Merchant Guild has arranged for your transport home. I see, Kael'thas said quietly. Santos looked at him. You do not sound excited. I'm grateful. He struggled to find the words. I am not ready to leave, the captain smiled. You have only been with us for 12 days. The most important 12 days of my life. Santos put her hand on his shoulder. You are always welcome back. If you ever need a ship, if you ever need help, you contact us. Understand? Kael'thas nodded, not trusting his voice. The ship docked smoothly. The airlock connected with a solid clunk. It was time. The 4 survivors gathered near the exit. They had been given proper clothing by the crew, donations from various people. Pip wore a shirt that was far too big for her. The sleeves rolled up multiple times. Drex had a new harness that worked with his missing arm. Sierra carried a datapad full of human engineering designs that Okonkwo had gifted her. Kael'thas carried nothing but memories. The crew came to say goodbye. Dr. Adisa hugged each of them, even Drex, who looked uncomfortable with the gesture but did not pull away. Eric knelt down and gave Pip a small stuffed animal, a earth creature he called a bear. So you remember us, he said softly. Pip's skin flashed bright yellow, then blue, then a color Kael'thas had never seen before, pure love. Chen shook Drex's hand in the way warriors did. You fought well, brother. Your arm does not make you less. It makes you more. You adapted. That is the mark of a true fighter. Drex's eyes were wet. I will remember. Okonkwo gave Sierra a set of tools. Real engineer tools. Human-made. They are old, but they work better than anything new. You use these and think of us. Sierra held the tools like they were precious treasures. I will build something wonderful with them. I promise, Captain Santos stood before Kael'thas. She held out a small device. Communication unit, she said. Direct line to this ship. Anytime, any place. You need us, you call. Kael'thas took the device. His hands shook. Thank you. For everything. For saving us. For teaching us, for... His voice broke. For showing us what we could be. Santos pulled him into a hug. Kael'thas had read that humans did this to show affection. It was strange but warm and comforting. You take care of yourself, she said, and you take care of them. She nodded toward the others. You are a family now. Families stick together. Then it was time. The airlock opened. Beyond it, the station bustled with activity. And waiting there were representatives from their respective species. A group of Vryn stood together, their neural implants glowing softly. They wore the formal robes of the Merchant Guild. One of them stepped forward. Kael'thas, he said. His voice was cold and formal. We have arranged your passage. The medical facility will attempt to repair your implant, though with that level of damage you may never navigate again. Kael'thas looked at the Vryn, his own people, but they felt like strangers. Behind him, Captain Santos spoke. He survived impossible odds. Showed courage and strength. That counts for nothing? The Vryn looked at her with barely concealed disgust. He is damaged. He has no value until he is repaired. This is simple economics. This is simple cruelty, Santos said. Her voice was hard. The Vryn ignored her and gestured for Kael'thas to follow. Kael'thas looked back at the human crew, at the ship that had saved him, at the people who had treated him like he mattered even when he was broken. He made a decision. No, he said. The Vryn stopped. What did you say? I said no. I am not going with you. Do not be foolish. You have no other options. I do. Kael'thas turned to Captain Santos. You said I was welcome. Did you mean it? Santos's face broke into a huge smile. Always. Then I want to stay. If you will have me. I cannot navigate anymore, but I can learn other things. I can work. I can help. You are hired, Santos said immediately. We always need good people. The Vryn sputtered with outrage. This is unacceptable. You are one of us. You belong with your own kind. Kael'thas looked at the Vryn. Then he looked at the humans. At Sira and Drex and little Pip. At the crew who had fought for them. I am with my own kind, he said quietly. I am with people who value life over profit. Who fight for what is right instead of what is logical. Who see worth in everyone, not just those who are useful. He walked back through the airlock. Back onto the human ship. Back home. The other survivors watched this. Then Sira stepped forward. I want to stay too, she said. Her 4 hands clenched nervously. If that is allowed. I want to learn from Engineer Okonkwo. I want to study human methods. The Quellan representatives looked shocked, but Sira did not waver. You are welcome, Santos said. We could use a good engineer. Drex was next. He looked at the Korvath warrior who had come to retrieve him. The warrior looked at Drex's missing arm with shame and disappointment. I am staying, Drex said simply. These humans have shown me that a warrior's worth is not in his body but in his spirit. I will serve them with honor. Chen stepped forward and clasped Drex's good hand. Brother. Brother, Drex repeated. Finally, there was Pip. The Tickmeal representatives reached for her, but she shrank back. Her skin flashed red. Fear. She has trauma, one of the representatives said. The death of her parents. She will need special care. She will get it here, Dr. Adisa said firmly. She put her hand on Pip's small shoulder. She is family now. Pip looked up at the doctor, then at Eric. Then at all the humans who had cared for her, played with her, made her feel safe. Her skin shifted through a rainbow of colors before settling on a warm golden hue. She took Dr. Adisa's hand and nodded. The representatives from the various species argued and protested. But there was nothing they could do. The survivors were adults who could make their own choices. And in Pip's case, the humans had already filed for guardianship under galactic law. The airlock closed. The survivors were now crew members of the Indomitable Spirit. Captain Santos gathered them together. Welcome aboard. Officially this time, you will work. You will learn. You will earn your place. But you will never be alone, and you will never be abandoned. That is the human way. The ship departed Haven's Rest 6 hours later. The repairs were complete. The supplies were loaded. and the crew was 4 members larger. Kalthos stood at his new station. It was not navigation. He did not need his implant for this. He was learning communications and sensors. Rashid was teaching him, patient and kind. Sierra was in engineering, her 4 hands already deep in a maintenance panel, talking excitedly with Okonkwo about redundancy systems. Drex was with Chen, learning security protocols and human fighting techniques. The big warrior smiled more now. He had found purpose again. Pip was in the mess hall with Eric, learning to cook human food. Her laughter echoed through the corridors. Course plotted, the helmsman said. Ready when you are, Captain. Santos looked around her bridge. At her crew. At the new members who had become family. Take us out. Standard speed, and make sure we sweep through the outer edges of the void. Captain, the helmsman asked. Someone might need help out there, Santos said with a smile. And we do not leave people behind. The ship jumped to faster than light speed. Behind them, the station grew smaller until it disappeared. 3 months later, Kalthos sat in his quarters during his off-shift. He was writing a report, not for the Vryn Merchant Guild. They had stopped contacting him after he refused to return. This report was for himself. A record of what he had learned. He wrote about human inefficiency that was actually brilliant redundancy, about their illogical compassion that saved lives, about their savage fighting ability that was balanced by deep kindness, about their refusal to abandon anyone, even when it made no economic sense. He wrote about how 4 survivors had been rescued from certain death by a species the galaxy considered primitive, about how those survivors had chosen to stay with their rescuers rather than return to their own people. He wrote about family, not the family you were born into, but the family you chose, the family that chose you back. His broken implant would never work again. Dr. Adisa had tried everything. But Kalthos found he did not mind anymore. He did not need advanced calculations to understand what was important. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Come in, he called. Pip entered, her skin a happy blue. She had grown in the past months. The trauma was still there, but it was healing. Love and safety were powerful medicine. Auntie Maria says dinner is ready, she said. She had started calling Captain